My name is Roger Myers. I was born in Rockford, Illinois, at the old St. Anthony Hospital. We lived on a farm south of Rockford, but I was born in the city. So I went to 3 one-room schools in Winnebago and Ogle County. Graduated from Byron High School in 1949. And I joined the National Guard while I was in high school, when I was 17. And my 3-year enlistment was up in January '52, so I re-enlisted. And in February, we got called to active duty and were sent to Camp Cook, California, which is now Vandenberg Air Force Base. And we never went anywhere as a unit. They used us for individual replacements. So some of the men went to Germany, and some of us went to Korea. Some all over the world, I guess, scattered around.
What made you choose to enlist? You said you first enlisted in the National Guard. Why did you choose that?
I don't know. It was we went to summer camp 2 weeks every summer, so it was something different than being on the farm. And we met a lot of people and learned a lot of things too. Learned how to drive a 2.5-ton truck and Jeep and that. So it was kind of interesting and to go to camp, especially in the summertime.
What was the training like?
Just about like basic training. We learned how to shoot and how to march and how to drive and all the basic training things we did in the summertime. We went to Fort McCoy, Wisconsin most of the time. And I still see a few of the guys from back then that are still alive anyway.
Wow. So, do you remember any of your instructors, or what were they like?
Most of them were citizen people, citizen soldiers, you know, so. And some of the guys, when we got called to active duty, were married, so they brought their wives to California too and lived off base, especially the officers and that. But we're going kind of fast now. We're all in our 80s, so.
So when you were called to active duty, what was the timetable like?
I think they gave us a week or so because we took all our gear with us, and we went down to Davis Junction, a small station down there, and we rode a train, ate sea rations the whole trip. It took us a long time because we had a steam-powered train engine pulling us, and then that broke down out in the middle of the desert for a few days. We just sat there, and then we continued our training when we got to Camp Cook. So it was there quite a few months before, or they were taking individuals wherever they needed them. So.
And what was going through your head, when you were actually called to active duty and finally sent out? What were you thinking?
Kind of thinking of it as an adventure. We didn't know anything, what was going to happen, and where we would be sent or anything. So it was kind of an adventure, and I got to see country I had never seen before, California. And so we'd get weekends off, and then I went down and visited my great aunt one time and stayed the weekend. So it was kind of look forward to an adventure.
Where were you sent to when you were actually assigned?
We got, I think it was like a 10-day leave, and then we had to report back to Camp Stoneman, California. And then that's when we boarded the ship for, we didn't know where. And we were on our ship 31 days. because we had Navy and Air Force and Army personnel on board. There were like 3,000 of us on a 500-foot ship. So you had to wait for somewhere to get up if you wanted to sit on the deck. But then it was hot too, because we went down to Guam and we had 2 sets of fatigues to wear. So you wear one for a week, and then we tried to wash them by hanging them over the side in a rope, but that lasted about 2 minutes till an officer caught us and stopped us from that. So then we ran out of soft water too, so you had cold salt water to take a shower in if you could get in. And then put on your fatigues that you wore 2 weeks ago. So, and then we went into Manila Bay. We never got to get off the ship any time while till we got to Japan. So we were on there 31 days. So we were glad to get off. And then we got our gear and weapon and everything in Japan, and then got on the same ship for 3 more days over to Incheon, South Korea.
So when you left California and got on the ship, you didn't know where you were headed?
We had no idea which we suspected we were going to Korea, but we didn't know. Nobody would tell you know where you were going or anything. So
what did you know about Korea at the time, or about the war going on?
Just what read in the papers when the talk around, because they called up 3 National Guard divisions to help with the fighting, and the California 40th, and then the 45th from Oklahoma, and 40th from Indiana, I think was the 3rd one. So we kind of replaced, by the time I got to the 45th, we were replacements for the original assigned, because they got there in 51 and we got there in 52, so we were replacements. So, but I didn't know too much what was going on, you know, just what you could read in the paper and the rumors you heard and that, so.
And what kind of, what were the rumors?
Well, I don't know if they're rumors, but how the fighting was going and that. It would pretty well settle down by 52. They had the lines established pretty much, and they'd have patrols going back and forth across the line at night most of the time. But then right at the rumor was that they were going to sign a ceasefire. So each side wanted to get as much territory as they could before they stopped fighting, because that would be where the line would be, the DMZ. And so they fired shells just as fast as we could haul them up there to try to drive the other side back. And so that was pretty intense right at the very end, until they signed a ceasefire.
What branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Army, headquarters company. We drove, we were pretty close to where the division headquarters were, where the generals and full colonels were. They were in charge of certain areas, and they always wanted drivers, so they would call down to our motor pool and send a driver up to take them wherever they wanted to. The first day we got there, we hadn't put our stripes on yet, because we got them issued in Japan, and we were riding on a ship and a truck the rest for 2 days. One of the captain was there, and he said, anyone here a corporal? And I said, learned by then you don't volunteer for anything. So one guy raised his hand, says, I'm a corporal. So he took off with one of the officers wanted to go somewhere. And about 5 minutes later, they come back, and he was officer was white as a sheet because I don't know if the guy didn't know how to drive or what. Went off the road and scared him. So he picked me to take him next time. So I took it nice and slow. He was my friend the rest of the time I was there. He'd always request me for a driver. Mr. Bosch, I remember his name. He was a warrant officer.
What were your duties?
Driving mostly, but I drove a truck too, and go pick up fuel or something. And like I said, at that last, we hauled mortar rounds up, and they were firing them off. But one of my duties was to meet the helicopter pad at the pad. They had a little pad built down there, where the officers from the Corps or different ones would come in and want to go up to the division headquarters. So my duty was to meet the helicopter, and they didn't want to wait, so I had to make sure I could be there. And so as soon as I heard that flop, flop, flop going, I'd head down there and be ready. So as soon as they got out of the helicopter, they could tell me where they wanted to go, and I'd drive them there. That was kind of an interesting job. You never knew who it was going to be. I had a license plate with stars on it, so if it was a general, I could drop the license plate in so they knew who it was.
So where exactly were you stationed at?
I think it was by Chuncheon. It was, we were probably 4 or 5 miles behind the very front militarized zone, so, but we'd go up there all the time. And when we first got there, we had the old GMC 2.5-ton trucks. Then we got the new ones. They were automatic shift, and they were really a nice truck. I liked them. But when we went up front, it'd take us about 2 hours to get up there because it was all real steep hills and gravel and that. But then coming down, it took about 20 minutes because we had a driver that was leading the convoy, and he was pretty wild. All I could see is dust in front of me. So then we did that for 2 days solid. We never stopped. We had 2 drivers, so one would kind of rest while the other one drove. But that was an adventure too.
Are there any experiences or stories you can tell me from that time?
We had a courier too that went back, and he'd carry a satchel with information back to the rear. He'd go every night, at night for some reason. And one morning he didn't show up, so we went looking for him, an officer and a couple of us, and we found him down at the bottom of the cliff. He drove off the road because there was no guardrails or anything, and it was just roads carved out of the side of the mountain. And we saw the smashed Jeep down below, and he was dead. So then I did it for a couple of nights. It was until they got a replacement. It was kind of scary too. You're by yourself on that dark road, and didn't so. And then I went back to the division motor pool one time, and I stand there was chaos, mud flying and water and trucks and Jeeps running every which way. And then this guy come walking by, and it was the guy I went to high school with. And he lived on the farm about a mile across the field from where I did. And I didn't know he was there, and he didn't know I was there. So we had a reunion there for a while. And he was in 45th Division. He was a tank commander, so he was just coming back to get a shower. So that was, the chances of that happening are pretty minimal, with everything going on.
So can you describe for me, kind of paint a picture, what did things look like? What did you see?
Well, we lived in a tent. We had and the mess hall was in a tent too. We had pretty good cooks. They tried to do what dried eggs and make stuff pretty good, easy to eat. And but there was just a group of tents, and then we had a tent for the motor pool, and the dispatcher was there, and he would talk on the radio back and forth, and what they needed for a driver and that. So, but it was, every day was the same. So after a few months, you just lost track of what day it was, because weekends were the same as any other day. Same routine, day after day. But and then it was cold in the wintertime too. Then we had a little oil stove in the tent, about 2 feet high, which didn't do much good, but it helped a little bit. But we slept in sleeping bags and with long johns on and everything, trying to keep warm. So we were happy when spring finally came. And then in the spring, well, I don't know how often, they had a shower unit that would come up. It was all mounted on a truck, and they'd go down in the creek and stick one hose in the water, and that sucked up the water and heated it. And then they had a tent with pipes with holes drilled in them for a shower. So we did get a shower once in a great while. Otherwise, we just sponged off once in a while.
So you wrote on your paper, one of the friends you remember was Frank Steiner. Can you tell me about him?
Yeah, we ended up, we didn't know we'd be in the same company, but we were in the same company in California. And then we came home together. And he was married. He had a 38 Buick out there. And he says, well, if you want to share the gas, when we go home on leave, 10-day leave, he says, you can ride with me. And there wasn't much room in those old cars. So we had a duffel bag tied on each fender, and it looked like a bunch of Okies coming. But we made it back, and then we ended up in the same company in Korea. And he was a pretty good Jeep driver. One of the colonels would always request him for his driver. So, but he's passed away now. He lived in Loves Park, suburb of Rockford. So, but we got along pretty good together. We were on the same ship coming back. Then we got released at the same time and headed back. So.
What kind of like friendships and camaraderie did you build through that time?
Well, Frank and I were really good friends, and then, in fact, he stood up for my wedding when I got married when we got back. And I don't know, you didn't get too close. I was close with, he was from Juarez, Texas, and Jose Tiarina, I still remember his name. He was Mexican. And we'd go to eat lunch together and over in the tent, and every month his wife would send a big box of hot peppers and hot sauce and everything, because he couldn't eat anything without hot sauce on. So I started eating some with him, and started out a little bit and add a little more. Pretty soon we'd both sit there, just sweat coming off our brows. But he was a pretty good friend too. But then when each one's you didn't get too close, because each time their time was up, then they'd rotate back to the States and that, so.
When you had completed your time, what did that transition home look like, and when was that?
They signed July 27th of '53, they signed a ceasefire, so it was just a few weeks after that that they said we could go home. And we rode a train all the way down to Busan, which is the southern tip of Korea. That took a couple of days. And then we had to turn in all our clothes and get different ones, cleaner ones, I guess. And I got pictures of some of the lines, it'd be 75 guys in a line waiting to get go through the discharge or dismissal part of it. And then we got on the ship, and it only took 2 weeks to get back. And then we went into Seattle and went to I forget the name of the. And then we were there just overnight, and then we went to Fort Carson, Colorado. That's where we were getting our discharge. But they had so many people that they couldn't handle it, so they gave us like a 5-day leave, and this is come back in 5 days because we're swamped with processing people through here. So and then after I got discharged, we took the Denver Zephyr back to Chicago, and then the bus back to Rockford. We had a bus station originally. So I was back home.
And what did it feel like when you got home? What was the reception like?
There wasn't much. My mom and my fiance met me at the bus station and went home. But my dad was still working on the farm, and he came in and said hi and had a pretty good reunion after. So in Seattle, they had every third ship or something was a show ship. So then we got on when we went to camp from the ship, we went on buses, and the crowds were out. It kind of cheered us on as we went by. So that was something new.
How did that feel?
It felt pretty good. Then we went and had a steak supper in camp, and so it was nice.
And what have you done since the end of the war?
I went back to Roper Corporation. That's where I worked before I left for the military, and they made Roper stoves. It was a big company at that time. The ranges for the kitchen. And then I started a sheet metal apprenticeship, so I was a sheet metal worker all the time after my 4-year apprenticeship. Got married and had a boy and a girl, and so normal life. They got married and had kids. I just had a great grandson born July 22nd, so, and everything seemed to be going good. Kids went through college, and then I retired, and my wife retired, so we're both living a pretty good life now. So.
Have you had a chance to go back to Korea?
No, I haven't. A friend of mine went back, and he said you wouldn't recognize the skyscrapers and everything. And I said on the paper that one of the things the South Korean people are very grateful for what we did. They're always thanking us, and the ambassador was here one time, talked to the Korean War Vets Association, and expressed how grateful everyone is. And I meet somebody once in a while. We were on a trip out, I think we were in Canada somewhere, and met the guy, and got talking. He was from South Korea. He was with the Department of Agriculture, and they were looking for, trying to plan a way to grow trees in Korea like they were in the Northwest. So, and he even would say, "Well, thank you for your service." It's a familiar thing that they say. So.
So how does it feel to have been a part of that and now see what they've done with it?
Well, I'm pretty proud that I did my share of the service over there. Like I said, when I left, the whole country was practically in shambles, blown apart, and it's amazing how far they've come. I think they're like 11th in the world as far as production of manufacturing and that. So it feels pretty good that we helped them out and stopped communism. That was a big thing. That's the first time that the communists had been stopped from spreading to different countries. So.
How has your time in the service, how did that affect the rest of your life?
I don't know. It was. I felt proud to do it. And the kids, well, then now I'm part of the VFW and the Korean War vets, and we help out veterans as much as we can. I'm on the funeral detail with the VFW, and we do a lot of funerals. Sometimes we get 2 in one day with the whole firing squad and playing taps and folding the flag and presenting it to the widow or the son or daughter. So I tell you, we veterans kind of take care of each other, and I think that's one way I can help honor fellow veterans, if I can present the flag to the family. Otherwise, I don't know if it's affected my life too much. I don't belong to any of the reserves or that. They just kind of disbanded the National Guard unit that was here. But they have reestablished it after a few years, so we do have one here. Too old for that now.
How has your time serving in the war affected your attitude or your thoughts towards war or service in the military?
I think we should always be prepared. I'm kind of upset that they're cutting back on the military for the military expenses, because I think we have to remain strong, a leader in the world, because we are the strongest nation. And if any other country is as grateful as South Korea would be for helping them out and helping them get, and we still have people stationed there, and I think that's one reason why the communists never tried to come back or that, because and I think we should have people stationed. Wherever we have people stationed, there's no recurring war and that, so I think we have to, like Teddy Roosevelt said, be silent, carry a big stick. So that's what my main thing is, to keep the military strong.
Is there anything that you would like any message for like future generations?
I kind of think some days it'd be a good idea if everyone served a year or two in the military, so especially the congressmen and that, so then they would know what it's like, I think. My idea is it'd be a good thing if they all served a year or two in the military before they could be a congressman or politician or whatever you want to call it. So then they would understand what's going on.